I think every story always starts with your mum, and my mum's here tonight. Hi, Mum. I grew up in Greymouth on the west coast in the 1960s and 70s, and my family never really went much more than an hour from home, and that suited me. I liked the bush, I liked nature, I liked tramping, and I had all that right on my doorstep, so I was just happy being where I was. But when I finished high school, it was time to go out and see the big wide world and to go and get my first big new beginning. So I went to Christchurch. I discovered I didn't really like cities, but I hung in there for 4 years, and after 4 years I ended up with a degree, and I thought I'd grown up quite a bit and got a bit worldly and knew a few things, and so I thought time for another new big beginning, and so this time I moved to Auckland and enrolled in postgraduate studies. I had a good plan, but it never happened. It was a new beginning that didn't get started. In the period of about 1 month, my best friend was killed in a motorcycle accident. I then lost my place in the master's program, and then I lost my girlfriend. And so I was quickly discovered just how unworldly I really was and how ungrown up, and it was a pretty awful time. I was quite consumed with grief. I was lost, I was really distraught. And I had no direction, no plan. There was no plan B. And so it was in that state of mind that I was in a youth hostel, and on the notice board there was a note which said, "One-way ticket to Paris, cheap." And I thought, I've got a plan. So I rang the number, spoke to a Swiss woman, and she'd come to New Zealand on a return ticket. She loved New Zealand and wasn't going to go home, and she wanted to sell the second half. It was a non-refundable, non-transferable, fixed date departure sort of thing. Sounded fine to me. I went, yeah, no worries. I don't know, but for some reason the idea of flying to the other side of the world on a black market ticket under a false name just didn't seem to bother me, and I'm sure you can't do it nowadays. So at that stage I was 22 years old. I barely knew that Europe existed, but I did know a lot about bushcraft. So I went home and I packed my tramping pack. And I put in the sleeping bag, and I think I had a bush shirt, I had a billy, and a bag of scroggin. So I knew I was going to be okay. So I turn up at the airport, and I meet Miss Keller. You know, she's foreign, she's attractive, you know, she's sophisticated and worldly. So she puts my backpack on, and she walks up to the check-in, and she hands over a ticket and her passport. And all the documents are in order, and they give her a boarding pass, and she gives them my backpack, and then I see my Macpac Touareg going off down the conveyor belt, and she comes over to me and, you know, gives me this big farewell hug, and other people are doing the same thing around us, and anyway, the only difference is, you know, she slips me the boarding pass and the ticket, and I slipped her some money. And then I walk over to the departure area, and there's a security guard there, but he doesn't check my ticket, so I just walk straight through. I mean, how easy is that? Anyway, a couple of hours later, I'm on an aeroplane, I'm flying over the Tasman Sea, I've got a one-way ticket to Paris, you know, this is sweet. So I kick back and hit the free drinks. Anyway, the plan was quite simple, just stay on the plane. Anyway, it didn't work because they landed in Singapore, and I had heard of Singapore. I knew that in Singapore, foreigners who had long hair end up in prison, and I had long hair. So I was really nervous, and we had to get off. They made us all leave without hand luggage. And so there I am in the transit lounge, and I'm sweating, and it wasn't the heat, I tell you. And I'm just sitting there, and I just don't know what's going to happen, and I'm worried about going to prison and all this sort of stuff. And eventually there's a call up for us to reboard the plane, but to my horror, they put us all back through check-in. And so, I mean, I can't do a runner. So I line up and head to the front, the desk, and there's an official there, and I walk up and I hand over my passport and my ticket, and the guy spends a bit of time looking at it, and of course the name on the ticket doesn't match the passport. And anyway, he looks up at me, and he says two words which are so etched still in my memory. He says, "Miss Keller." I didn't know what to say. So, in this rather high voice, I just said, "Yes." And we stare at each other like, And at this, I'm not breathing, you know, I'm not breathing. And I'm thinking of prison, okay? Anyway, this steering thing goes on for quite a while, and then he just pushes the tickets back to me and he just says, "Get on the plane." So, my legs are doing this. Anyway, I'm guessing the jails are all full that day, and I've gone on the plane. Okay, so this time when the free drinks come round, I get serious. So, you know, we're in the plane, we're flying again, and okay, I'm starting to relax. But could you believe it? They go and land in Abu Dhabi. I've never heard of Abu Dhabi. So, all right. And it gets worse because we get off into the transit lounge, and this time the guards are holding machine guns. And I've never seen a machine gun in my life. I've never seen armed police, ever. And so I'm thinking these jails are probably much worse than jails. And I'm sweating. But anyway, this turns out okay. We get the call, and I get back on the plane. No check-in, just on the plane. So, phew. Finally we're flying again. This time, you know, I'm really tired now, I'm really stressed, and I have seriously need some whiskey. Anyway, I get the whiskey, I didn't get to sleep. So 24 hours after leaving New Zealand, I arrive in Paris. And I mean, I've been awake for 30 hours and I'm really tired. Anyway, I think, okay, one more hurdle to go. And this was easy, we just get off the plane, walk down, there's my backpack, I'm reunited with my gear. Anyway, plan. I got a plan, I had a Let's Go Europe. And my plan was, find accommodation. So, change money, that's right, need to change money. Now, we're in France, and I know that in France they've got different money to us, and I know in France they speak French. For some reason, I'd never really figured out what that would mean. What it means is, if you don't speak a language in common, you can't communicate. It also means you can't read the signs, and you can't pronounce the words. And so, I mean, I'm stuffed. Yeah, I did change some money though, and I found a payphone, I figured out how to use it, grabbed the book, open it up, youth hostels, and start dialing the numbers. Well, they're either full or they don't speak English. Eventually the last one, the guy answers, they got space, and he says, yep, come on out. And they're right outside the city, so it's quite a long way. And he gives me the name of the train to catch and the name of the station to get off. Could I pronounce either of those? No way. So I find the metro, not far off, and I find the metro and go to the ticketing thing, and I can't figure it out. I can't read the words, I've got no idea what to do. And I'm starting to sort of get a bit worried, and I'm really tired at this stage, and I'm just getting a bit desperate. So I just climbed over the ticket barrier, and I just got on the first train. And I started to think, now, okay, it's going to be a French prison, that's where I'm going to end up. I spent most of my first day in Europe travelling under Paris, crisscrossing around under Paris, talking to my fellow commuters with my awful French pronunciation, trying to say where I was getting to. And I think I spent most of the day, because it was quite late that evening when I finally got to my destination, got off the train, hunted around for an hour or two and found the youth hostel. So I get to the youth hostel, I've now been awake for 40 hours. I mean, look, I've travelled halfway around the world to a country I know nothing about, to a language I can't speak. I've got no experience as a traveller. I'm desperately tired. I'm sick of scrogging by the stage. And I just need a bed. So I check in, and the guy tells me where the bunk room is, and I head straight to the bunk room, find my bed, and there's one other guy in the room. And he looks at my bush shirt, and he looks at my backpack, and he says, he must be a Kiwi. So, it turns out he's a Kiwi. And he says, where are you from? And I say, Greymouth. And I say, so where are you from? And he goes, oh, Harry, one house south of Greymouth. That's my story.